Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Eugene Munster joins us now. Really pleased with that, of course, with Deepwater Asset Management. Gene, what is the moment we're in? Paul Sweeney and I did important AI seminars for Anurag Ran and Mandeep Singh yesterday with Adobe, with Salesforce. There's NVIDIA earnings and the rest. You've been doing this forever. What moment are we in the next year in American technology?
We're in what is going to be the most, I think, exciting year in innovation over the last 50 years. And it's hard to really put language on it to capture what the concept of infinite intelligence or close to infinite intelligence at almost no cost means for humanity. And so as someone who has been around for the internet and saw the boom and bust of that, I think this is going to be more significant. And I think that next year, if you think about the markets, I've been talking about this 3 to 5 year bull market. And so I started talking about that about a year ago. So we're going to say we got a 2 to 4 more years. It's going to end in a spectacular bursting of the bubble. But I think next year, from just a broader market perspective, I think we're going to see another incredible year. And I think that it's driven by substance around AI, going from a build out to starting to move to more applications. We saw a little bit of that with Snowflake today. Of course, we've seen most of the excitement around the hardware, including NVIDIA. But I think we're going to start to shift to slowly see more performance in software specifically. But just I'm just really excited to be alive at this time in life. It's just a really special moment.
Hey, Gene, when I talk to people about AI, I often quote you, because I remember talking to you maybe 18 months ago on this program, and you put into a kind of a framework of a compendium of kind of where you view AI relative to, say, the internet, to electricity. Can you just review that for us? Because it's so powerful to give people a sense of how you view the potential impact of AI.
So it's a 0 to 100 scale, and 100 is the most impactful, most transformative. But at 25, I would put mobile. At about 35, 40, I would have the PC, the internet at 50. And obviously, these all build on themselves. But if you look at them as a standalone, so the internet is 50. I think AI is probably 90, and electricity would be 100. And I think AI would be greater than electricity if not for the fact that you need electricity to run these machines, of course. But this is a big deal, Paul, and that's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype in that. I think the substance will exceed that hype.
Yeah, but you're, Gene, when someone like you makes that analysis, a lot of people like myself, we pay attention here as we try to get our minds around AI. What's the next step here? It feels like we're so early innings on this, but it feels like we're now at the discussion point where
the next step is one of your kids needs a Mac.
Exactly.
Needs a new laptop.
New laptop with the AI.
Just so you know, that's the next step.
That's the next
step.
It's
this weekend.
Exactly. Gene, are we at the point now where we really have to make the use case for AI applications, maybe the return on all this investment that we've seen?
I don't think we're at that point. I think we're going to start to see some of that next year, and that has been the hesitancy around this whole AI trade, is that I think the skeptics would say that we just really haven't seen those incredible, breathtaking use cases yet, but they will ultimately come. And I think that what we saw with the NVIDIA earnings last night, and specifically this demand, I mean, this is incredible. I've never seen a story like this. They did $21 billion in revenue in calendar 22. They'll do, call it $140 billion in revenue next year. There's been anything like this. And when you see that, what they're doing is they're building the infrastructure. We're still largely in this building infrastructure phase, Paul, but some of these breathtaking applications that will change basically all forms of our life, I think we're going to start to see those a little bit later next year, specifically to this concept of agentic AI. It came up a lot on the NVIDIA call last night, but this idea of these agents going out and actually getting work done for us, I think that's going to be the big change, how we're all going to interact with these agents.
First thing we're working, Gene Munster with us here right now, folks. Thrilled he's with us. Dan Ives with us earlier as we look at technology in America. Munster with Deepwater Asset Management. Gene Munster, I look at the Apple A&R. Used to be part of the sell-side racket. Loved it at Piper Jaffray years ago in Minnesota. But Gene, I'm looking at, okay, I got 40 buys, but the fact is I got 18 holds. I got Apple in a trading range since June. It's buttressed up now near new highs. I assume Gene Munster thinks Apple's going to break out. How is it going to break out? What will be the catalyst? At the top of the income statement or on downward?
It's going to be at the top, and it's going to be either later this fiscal year, kind of the June quarter-ish of next year, I think is a potential breakout, or in fiscal 26. And I think it's inevitable that this happens. And to put some numbers around it, what that breakout is that the street's looking for iPhone growth in fiscal 25 to be around 6%. And for fiscal 26, a pretty similar number. I think that can be 10 to 15%. And ultimately, all this talk about AI, the vast majority of people still don't use AI. And if you look at the number of ChatGPT on a daily basis, it's probably about 150 million, 200 million people. If you look at Meta's products, that's about 3.2 billion. Wow. If you look at Instagram. And so this is still a fraction of the use. But what is special about what Apple is doing is taking these tools and just making them accessible to everyone. And I think that, well, today those features really don't light up your life. I think that as they roll more of them out, it will become more clear to people that they have to upgrade.
John Tucker, does AI on your iPhone, 6, does it light up your life?
BlackBerry, do they have AI features? Gene,
this is what we work with here. Gene.
John Tucker's back with a Palm Pilot. Paul, continue.
Hey, Gene,
I'd love to see that.
If I were to put together kind of an ETF for AI, because I'm trying to get some exposure to AI, but maybe I feel like I've missed the NVIDIA trade.
Wait. Are you asking for one of your kids?
Exactly. I need a basket.
You just emailed in for one of your kids.
I need a basket of AI. How else are you thinking about kind of getting exposure to, again, this really seminal shift in technology?
Paul, I'd be remiss not to mention we have an ETF. The ticker is LOUP. It is Frontier Tech, and it basically gives exposure to AI themes that are outside of the mega cap. So if you're looking for some smaller companies like Vertiv, for example, that does cooling, it was mentioned on the call. These are the sub kind of $200 billion. So have to mention that LOUP, but nice, I would say that more broadly, I still think we're in a period where the hardware piece, this is a contrarian view. I think the hardware trade is going to continue to be stronger than expected over the next several quarters. And then, as I mentioned, kind of exiting end of next year, I think, what we're seeing with Snowflake, I think you're going to see more and more of that in software land kind of later next year. But that's kind of how I think about it, still in the hardware piece and then moving to software later on.
Okay, LOUP. Up 35%, 3.5, up 35%, 1 year trailing. Robinhood's your number one holding. How do you have Robinhood as part of AI?
So what they're using is as part of how they assess risk with customers. They use AI. They also use AI as a means to go and generate new customers. So for doing outreach. So they've been proactive at doing that. So it's companies like Robinhood. There's another company that we looked at recently to add to this was like Crispin Green. It sounds crazy, but they have a big robotics initiative going on. So it is these companies that are starting to implement AI kind of under the hood.
Yeah. Interesting. Gene Munster, don't be a stranger. We'll feature him on Single Best Idea today. I look at this. Paul, why don't you get one more into Gene Munster? We got time here.
Yeah, we'll go with Gene. We got Gene. We're going to hold him on here. Hey, Gene, Snowflake. I am looking at Snowflake. Stock's up 25%. Can you tell us what Snowflake does and why the stock is up so much today?
So what Snowflake does is it's called a data warehouse, which means that you take data. It could be anything from structured data inside of a business. Structured data would be data that is in like an Oracle database. and it warehouses it so AI models can train on it. It basically makes data more accessible and usable for training. So that is what they're benefiting from, is just more training and more enterprises starting to use this. Their biggest competitor, where they've been losing share, the reason why the stock has not done well before today, is called Databricks, and they have a data lake where you can just throw in PDFs and Excel documents and just throw a bunch of data into this data lake, and then it organizes it for you. But that's what's going on with Snowflake.
Gene, first question to Eli Greenfield yesterday at Adobe. Is all this fancy Gene Munster, Dan Ives talk, is it going to take our jobs away from us?
Well, as an asset manager, I think that's a very real potential. I think as an analyst, it's a little different. At Deepwater, we launched an affiliate company a few months ago called Intelligent Alpha, and it basically is machines picking. It's just machines picking stocks. There's an ETF, LIVR, Livermore, but I think it is. It's something I just mentioned that in context too. It's one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to take our jobs as an asset manager. I would say for you and Paul and your team, you need not worry.
Yes.
One of the things that AI won't take away is community and empathy. And that's things definitionally that can't be done. And I think that's what you guys bring every day.
Well, we have community. Do we have empathy, Lisa? I don't,
That's a stretch.
It's like pushing the envelope here a little too much. Gene Munster, hugely valuable. We get a huge response when he's on. We love these days where we tag team, the trenches sell side of Dan Ives with what we do with Gene Munster. It's great.